Hello, you're watching Webcertain TV and I'm Ben Lefebvre. Germany is a very attractive market for international businesses. It has a strong economy and a large, mature and engaged internet audience. However, in order to make the most of the opportunities of this market, providing content and communications in the local German language is essential. Like any language, German has its unique quirks and traits which can give web marketers a headache when it comes to keywords and website optimization. One of these quirks are umlauts, special characters which appear regularly in the language and can impact on German SEO efforts. Today, our German SEO specialist Jens Kuhn will help us understand more about them. Jens, the German language is full of umlauts, but what exactly are they?
Well, umlauts are special characters in the German language or in the German alphabet, which are basically a variation of vowels. So you have an A, German umlaut would be A is the A, and would be the umlaut. And you have that for 3 letters, basically. And they are represented by putting dots over the letter like this. And yeah, that's umlauts.
How do umlauts make things complicated for German SEO?
There are 2 problems with umlauts when it comes to SEO. The first is that one part of SEO optimization is quite often the URL. And in URL names, there are ways of putting umlauts in there. There are several ways within HTML conventions and substitutions of umlauts you can put. There's the UTF-8 system. There are several ways. But it's not always done. And quite often when you see optimization, people avoid it because it can lead to problems with older software or links. The other one is that when you do keyword research, quite often words show up that have the umlauts, that don't have the umlauts or have the umlauts wrong. Like a typical German way is to put umlauts like this. You instead, for the dots, put an E after. And that's obviously technically a misspelling, so you can't use it on site.
Do Google's results differ if you use umlauts versus alternative spellings? If so, how?
That's the interesting bit. Google is very good at understanding how umlauts are represented by German users. Basically, there are 3 ways. There is the correct way with the dots, there is the one with the E, and then you can also just simply leave the dots off and just have the A. Now, quite often all of these variations have some search volume, and people use them on web pages. Obviously, mostly the correct form is used because that's the only one that would look satisfactory to a German eye. But SEO people sometimes try to sneak the other ones in, for example, by using the AE form in a URL and then putting the actual web address on the page content. The version without any dots is very rarely used, obviously, because you can use it in URLs. And if you look at how Google shows search results for these terms, we found out that the version with the correct version and the one with the AE show almost always either exactly the same search results or at least 90% the same, which means Google does know how these are related. The version without any dots is a little bit of a different kettle of fish. You get search results varying on certain circumstances there.
So, which spellings should you target for German SEO? Umlauts or alternative spellings?
Well, it's not that simply easy to answer because there's basically 3 scenarios how you could treat umlauts differently. If you have an umlaut that doesn't mean anything different than the word without the umlaut, basically leaving it out would be a misspelling. you should always use the correct form on page. You can put the AE form in URLs, that's fine. If you have any search volume for the letter without the dots, I wouldn't recommend using that basically anywhere. Google will still show the right page for some people, but I don't think that's worth it. There are some other things. When you have the example here with the apples, we've got this one, or rather this one actually, and you leave the dots off, it will still be a valid German word, because this means apples, and without the dots, it's just one apple. In this case, and there are a couple of these cases, it is worth to target both terms separately for different pages. And the third one is the odd case where you have words, German words, which are actually used in the English language. And one example is the word Übermensch. Now, if you just leave the dots off, you will show the German audience English pages. Google will think it's an English word, because the word without the dot has about 20,000 searches in the US, but it only has 320 or something in Germany. So Google will think this is an English word. So be careful with German umlaut words that are used in English. By leaving them out, they will not be German words anymore. It's not a correct spelling of the kind you would find in a dictionary or people would use in print or on a website. I can't recall any examples of having seen that. It is, however, traditionally sort of an old-fashioned way of replacing the character, the dots, when you don't have them. For example, when you have a typewriter which doesn't have it. And German people who end up using a computer with an English keyboard, they will prefer this version instead of just leaving the dots off, which is basically my main point. The main point is just whatever you do, don't just leave the dots off. And that's actually something, though, which is recommended quite often by SEO people, because they think it's closer to the actual letter than the actual character, than adding an extra character, which is sort of a little bit contrary to the exact match idea. I would have thought that's probably where it comes from. And also the fact that in French or Spanish, you can actually leave the accents off, right? And it's fine, and Google will understand that. But umlauts are not accents, they're actually different letters. And I think that's something you need to bear in mind.